Paul, how is it to play a game, especially your opener for season, against a team coached by, first off, a guy that was on your staff last year, and then the next part of it is, I'll ask you about the certain guy, but first of all, just a guy on your that was on your staff last year. He's now got a team. He knows what's going on here. He's been here for a year. How does that affect the game, you think?
Well, I think it has an impact, through a little bit of strategic impact, in terms of he probably has a real good feel for the types of things we are trying to do, and so that has an impact, and we probably don't know clearly as much as he knows, about us as we'd like to know more about him, but it's where it's at, and ultimately, it's like I said before, it's a player's game, and the players are the ones that ultimately decide the outcome of these games, and so that's where I'm that's what I'm relying on.
Even if it wasn't Mike, I mean, he hasn't coached for 3 years. The offensive coordinator hasn't been in the game for a while. How do you prepare? Do you look at film of their games from last year for players? Do you try to go back and find Montana State film to find schemes? How do you do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, it is all of that. You're seeing old film, what you can find if it's available, and then you look at overall philosophy of what they're trying to do, and then there's some guesswork here, and so we're guessing on a lot of things, and but we have to be very prepared to make adjustments, in this game, and in all three phases, and so we've got a work cut out for us, I believe, because of the unknown, and as the game progresses, we've got to make adjustments on the run.
Mike, of course, this is nothing new for you, having coached against him all those years when you were at Eastern, and he was at Montana State. But one place they might be favored is he might be about a 500-word favorite. You think?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. There's a big difference between his vocabulary and mine. I can tell you that, and the amount that comes out too. So, and that's all right, and it's just his personality, and it's all good.
How much did he help you guys last year here?
Well, a lot, and because he's a tireless worker, and he did so much in the recruiting realm of evaluating videotape from junior colleges to high schools, and we don't just get hundreds, we get thousands of people that we need to look at, and so he was very valuable in that end of it, and then I'd always bounce things off of him, or which I like to do with our whole staff, and get the right decision made, then worrying about who makes the decision as much as let's collect the right information, let's make the right decision, and Mike was definitely part of that.
Kind of miss him personally?
Oh, absolutely. He's a good friend, a great friend, and in a lot of ways been a brother to me, and I've known Mike for, boy, I don't know, long time, 20 years, and he I actually worked for him in my first year coaching, directly with him by position, and then he hired me and gave me my first opportunity as a full-time coach, and so obviously I owe a great deal to him and his family, and so it's very mutual, and we'll always be friends.
You don't mind beating him by 35 on Saturday, though?
Not at all. I would love to be able to do that, but our number one concern would be right now is about the Cougars, and going out and playing the brand of football we've been working hard to do, and doing that.
Howie?
Questions on the line?
Yeah, Paul, I was kind of curious about Monte Horton. He seems to kind of emerge as the number one cornerback over a couple of guys with more experience. Can you share a little about him?
Well, I in all honesty, I don't know that he has emerged himself as the number one cornerback. I just think that he's shown a lot of consistency lately. But Daniel Simmons is showing some flashes of good things. We need Daniel to become more consistent in his performance. Nolan has been out with a hamstring, so it's been hard to evaluate him from that perspective. But DeMonte, and deservedly so, has been the most consistent because he's stayed healthy. He's worked hard, and he keeps emerging. And it goes back to playing experience that he got last year, and some off-season training that he's got himself better physically. So his game has obviously improved a great deal from where he was a year ago at this time as a first-year freshman just finishing training camp.
Paul, what is that situation exactly depth-wise, and what is Nolan's situation?
Well, Nolan is for the first time practiced yesterday in quite a while, and that was even at a limited basis. But we're hoping that he can just progress, again today and Thursday, Wednesday and Thursday, and if he can have a solid, consistent practice and stay relatively and feel healthy, then he'll get an opportunity to play some in the game. How much, it will be determined. But he moved around reasonably well yesterday.
And do you plan to play those guys as boundary and field, or left and right, or how will that work?
Yeah, right now it's all left and right. We try to give him opportunities on both sides, so we build some flexibility with our players. So if we got in a pinch for some reason, one could go from left to right.
Well, I wonder if you could kind of trace the progress of Adam Corper. He must be doing a lot of things right out there.
Adam has shown a physical play, in defending the run, which has been something we need. And he showed some signs early in spring ball. Then he had a high ankle sprain, and he only, I think, participated the first week of spring ball. So then we missed him all through, obviously, spring after that injury. And then this summer he in camp he's shown some really good things as well. Consistency is another issue with any player that's starting to emerge. We're always looking towards consistency, and Adam, he's getting better, but we like his size, his frame, and his strength, and so he's shown some things that are really good, but his game is nowhere near where we hope it will get to, obviously. So, but we've been happy with his progress since the beginning of spring football.
Any other questions on the line?
Yeah, hey Paul. Every year I know that the players and the coaches find it to be a relief to finally get the season started. Now that practice is finished. Is this year any more of a relief for you than previous years, or is it about the same as previous years to finally get the season started?
Well, it's great to get the season going. This team has put in a lot of hard work. If you go back to December until now, these guys have done a heck of a job developing themselves physically, coming together as a team, committing themselves together. Grades have been really solid. Off-field issues have really turned a dramatic turn for the positive. We're now becoming having more leaders on our football team, not only on our team but in the community. All the things we've been striving to get towards, and all these things are starting to show up. And like I said, I said that's at the beginning when I took the job, once we get all the off-field issues and we get all ourselves turned around in the program, then we'll be in position to start winning football games. And I believe all our players, particularly this year's team, has really made a huge jump in that direction. And so we are anxious to get to the season and see a lot of that stuff pay off.
What was your biggest surprise to you in your preseason camp?
Probably just the overall consistency and focus that we had as a team all camp. Very few practices I would say that were not that were a bad practice. I just liked how they went to work every day and they supported each other and they practiced like a team and they just the consistency of how they prepared every day was very good.
Anything disappoint you?
No, because I've seen enough disappointment and to compare. And no, this team has done well. I mean, there's some areas that we need to continue to improve on, and some individuals that we need to take steps for us. But I would not classify anything as a disappointment.
Paul, at this point, would you consider Long and Nolan? Would you consider them probable for Saturday?
Yeah, I think Long and Nolan would be in that category.
How much do you know?
Well, you
Go ahead, bud. Go ahead.
Sorry. Paul, are you convinced that you hit enough in fall camp?
Yeah, I mean, I am. I think we hit a good amount. I know we hit a lot in spring football, and going back and looking at our overall plan was to hit a lot in spring football, which we did. We did a lot of live situations in spring, and then in fall we were going to tone it back from a percentage amount of hitting compared to what we did in the spring, and we did that. But when you look at our live situations and you evaluate our film, I felt our tackling was relatively pretty darn solid. And you can even tell when we're not in live situations, are we in position or where we need to be to make that tackle, even though we're not tackling? And it just seemed like a higher percentage of our defense was in that position. And the biggest gain from live situations and hitting is really the defensive tackling that you gain from that.
How has Mizell looked?
Yeah, he's had a good camp. He's worked hard, and he's had a very, very solid camp. He's in shape, and I think he's ready to play a game.
Well, how much do you know about Idaho State's quarterback and that little running back?
You know, they're a quarterback, junior college transfer. We've seen some junior college tape of him. He looks like a very solid player. How he's meshed with the team and what they're doing, obviously we don't know that. And the running back, you know, he's very dynamic. I know, you know, just his ability to return the kickoffs and punt return, and here's a guy that's a 10.5, 100-meter guy that can really, really run. So obviously, if he gets any kind of space, that he's probably going to take that thing to the end zone.
All the two freshman linebackers that are in the depth, Monroe and Sue, how about addressing how they've done?
Yeah, you know, Daryl Monroe was here in January, went through spring ball, and you know, he's gotten better. His comfort level is a lot greater this fall camp than any first-year freshman you could imagine, obviously, just because of his experience through the spring. But you know, Daryl's a very solid player. Always seems to be in the right spot. He's a smart football player. He's got good speed. He's a very physical, heavy hitter, which we like, and he's fairly mature in terms of how he handles his business so far for what we've seen in practice. Chester's a little more raw, with you know, very good athletic talent, speed, and quickness that has a lot to learn. But it's just tough to keep that kind of an athlete off the football field. He's going to help us on special teams, and he's going to play. And he's just one of those guys that the more he plays, the better he's going to get. And I think, you know, we think he's going to get better fairly quick. So, you know, we need to get him on that football field.
Do you kind of look at these first three games? You have these non-conference games, then followed by it's almost like a preseason, you know, because it's almost like it's setting up like that where you get.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, the way our schedule sits this year, you could look, it definitely sets that way. And right now, it's not how, you know, it's nothing we're really looking at.
Right.
But yeah, you know, you sit back and look at it, it's how it looks at this point. But
is the plan to try to give some kids, I mean, the plan, to give some kids more playing time, say the first week, and then kind of winnow that down as you go through the 3 weeks toward until you get to the Pac-12?
Our plan is to play the players we feel deserve to play on the field and evaluate their play. And we don't ever want to just play one guy at one position. So we have the ability, with a little more depth than we've ever had, that we can now play the backup. But what we don't ever want to do is wholesale change, meaning we're in a situation where we can put the whole twos in. And I mean, I think we have to work as a staff. If we're going to play some backups, maybe you got the starting 11 out there. Maybe the next series you have two or three backups in there, and then the next series you put 2 or 3 different backups in there and get the starters back in. So you got to get them rotating and working with your core group, and that's the best way to implement backups to play.
A little bit different, the quarterback spot. Are you going to try to get? Is the goal to try to get someone like Connor and Marshall some game time to help you decide which one you have to go? You're going to go.
Yeah, I mean, if we're in that situation in the game, and one way or another, there's a good chance both will play. There's no guarantee that one will and one won't, but I think we'll play it as we need to.
Anything else on the line? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No more questions. You can't bogart the questions.